Howdy there, folks, it's Geist, and in today's video we're going to be talking about Hushed Whisper, which is the totally originally named new bow that just came out for the Halloween event right now in Destiny. And now when I say original, there's so many different bows that have like Whisper, Whistle, Wisp something, and now there's two bows that have Hush in the name. So it's kind of interesting. I don't know why Bungie can't come up with something more interesting than like quiet noises, I guess, which the bows in their games are not even really that quiet. But I mean, seriously, just look at these bows. We've got Whispering Slab, Whistler's Whim. What else am I missing? There's Hush, of course. Strident Whistle, Vengeful Whisper, and now Hushed Whisper. So, anyways, silly name aside, it's an interesting bow, and we're going to talk about whether or not it's good for PvP and for PvE. Now, right off the bat, I do want to say that this bow is extremely, extremely easy to farm. It's kind of just dropping all over the place. Thanks to the Eerie Ingrams, you'll get a few bonus ones from portal activities, but you can also farm a couple of events that are going on right now. So in Crucible, we have Red Rumble. Every match will drop Eerie Ingrams, and there's a chance that you'll get the bow. I've gotten quite a few of them from doing this. The other one that you can run is the Haunted Altars of Sorrow. This drops 2 of those. This is the one that I've been farming the most just because it seems to have the better payoff. And unfortunately, with our low population, there are kind of some cheaters in the Rumble matches, and that can be a little bit frustrating. And even still, some of those matches are just like super, super sweaty. So if you're not interested in the PvP side of things, this seems to have a better yield anyways, and it's kind of fun to go in with a variety of PvE builds and just blast stuff away. But anyways, if you are someone that does not have a precision bow that already has Archer's Gambit, and you want a well-rolled one that can get Archer's Gambit, this is your time. Get this one right here. You might as well get it while it's here because it's super, super farmable, and especially if you're high enough to be getting tier 4s and tier 5s, the event is dropping a tier higher than whatever your current tier is that you can earn. So let's say normally you get tier 3s, you're going to be getting tier 4s. If you normally are getting tier 4s, you're going to be getting tier 5s. And that makes it a lot easier to get the God roll in this because it doesn't have a super deep perk pool, and it has some decent ones. I think this is only like, I got this on like my second farming session with this, which took me a total of like a couple hours, and this one already dropped for me. This isn't a perfect roll, but it's pretty daggum close. And so now let's talk about what I think the perfect rolls are on this thing. So first and foremost, a lot of this is just going to be standard, same exact roll that we put on literally every bow that we have for pretty much forever. You want the draw time masterwork, of course. You want compact arrow shaft because it gives you the best reload. And you want elastic string because it gives you the fastest draw speed. Now after that, if you have one that is a high enough tier, which should be tier 4 or tier 5, you can put on the enhanced draw time. Or if you're lower than tier 4 or 5, you can just put on the tension mod, which isn't as fast, but it's still better than nothing. Now, you don't have to have the perfect roll on this for the draw speed. Like, take for instance this one that I have here. I did not get a draw time masterwork. Now, I did get reload masterwork, which is lucky for me because, you know, the increase in reload speed is still going to help my TTK. But 558 is plenty of draw time. If you're 576 or less on this bow and you manage to get the perks that you want in these columns, I would just call it a win and not worry about it too much. That being said, once you get a decent roll, if this bow was the only thing you were going for, you can quit doing Altars of Sorrow or whatever, or the Red Rumble, and just play the game normally. Wear a mask, get some candy, periodically go back to Evil Levante, turn in the candy, get a bunch of weapons, and you'll get some more rolls. That way you don't have to sweat chasing the God roll and play exclusively those 2 events for the next, few weeks while this is out. But these things are dropping like candy, pun intended, so it shouldn't be that hard to get a decent roll. I've seen a lot of people already that have been getting the great rolls on this, so. But back to the rolls. When it comes to the origin traits, That's kind of really just dealer's choice there. I would say Search Party is pretty daggum good, and personally, that's the one that I like. It's kind of a combination between Snapshot and Moving Target. You're going to aim faster, and you're also going to move faster while aiming. It's not as strong as either one of them, but it is a weaker version of both, but the combination of the two. And especially in any activity where you're solo or something where you're far away from your teammates, obviously it's going to be super useful. A lot of people really like Wildcard, I know, just because it makes the little submunitions on the ground that blow up and whatever. I've never really cared for it. It doesn't make a huge impact to me, but if you like it, go ahead and use it. Both of these are great origin traits. Most importantly, when it comes to the rest of the perks in these two columns here, we're going to start with the final column. There's not really, in particularly, any kind of standout choices for PvE. If I had to pick the best perk here for PvE, I would probably go with Hatchling, just because it's going to be spawning threadlings. And then as far as this column for PvE, also kind of although personally I would probably go with Tear. A combination between the two of these, if you're getting headshots, you're going to be severing groups of enemies, which is going to cause them to deal less damage to you, making you more survivable, and you're also going to be spawning hatchlings. This, in my personal opinion, is the best combo for PvE. None of the rest of this really sort of struck my fancy. Slice is a decent alternative to Tear because it'll be severing targets after you cast your class ability. Slice or Tear, either one would be good, and then Hatchling. That's what I go for with PvE. I don't really care much for these other ones here, like Lead from Sight, Collective Action, Aggregate Charge. I'm sure somebody's going to come up with some kind of fun builds with these, but to me, just kind of boring. I would rather just spam the threadlings and the debuffs, and especially since they're kind of just always active. As long as you keep landing headshot kills, you're going to get some good stuff out of that. Alternatively, for PvE and for PvP, Archer's Gambit is always an S tier perk. It's pretty much the best perk on a precision bow right now. And regardless of whether you're on controller or mouse and keyboard, there's ways to utilize it for both. I recently made some videos talking about Archer's Gambit, and there's like 4 or 5 different ways you can reliably proc it on controller. I'll put a link to that video in the description just so y'all can go and watch that, because I don't want to get into that here. But just know that there are many ways you can use it on controller. And regardless of whether you're on M&K or controller, because it makes the bow so fast, it's just a top tier perk. Good for PvP for sure, and that's going to be my pick for PvP, but of course it's useful in PvE as well, just because it makes it fast. As for this other column here for PvP, Lone Wolf is an interesting pick. Improves aim assist, aim down sight speed, and airborne effectiveness, and increases that when there's no nearby allies. That's good just for the bonuses it gives. And I know a lot of people really seem to enjoy Lone Wolf on bows. I'm not really a big fan. I think it's just kind of... I really prefer that on specials more, like shotguns. But if you like it, by all means, go for it. An interesting option here is going to be Snapshot. This is going to be more so for the controller players, because mouse and keyboard players, you guys are just going to use Archer's Gambit, and you're going to hip fire all the time. You're never going to ADS really, because you don't have to. Controller players, however, with the methods that I've discussed in that other video, you will be ADSing, and yes, you can still proc Archer's Gambit, but by using Snapshot, it's going to kind of bridge the gap between M&K and controller here. M&K players are always going to be faster with this because they don't have to aim. They're already hip firing all the time, and because of that, they're just going to get on target a little bit quicker, and just the nature of the mouse itself. But with Snapshot, this sort of bridges the gap just a little bit because it lets you aim super duper fast on controller. If you combine that with Search Party, this bow aims extremely fast. And in fact, I'll even load into something so that we can kind of demonstrate that just a little bit. Where do we want to go? Let's go to my favorite lost sector like I always do. All right, and while that's loading in, we'll continue to talk about this. But it sort of bridges the gap for you controller players because it's just going to make it aim super duper fast. And being able to get on target fast is going to be a much greater advantage in Crucible anyways. Snapshot is something that not a lot of players seem to talk about, or some of them think they're boring. I personally love Snapshot on just about any weapon because, especially in PvP, it makes you get on target faster. If you're on target faster than your opponent, it means you have a higher chance to kill them before they kill you. It just makes sense. Now, there is also an interesting combo here with Impulse Amplifier. You're not really going to get that much out of the reload speed boost with Archer's Gambit, just because that 25 reload basically goes to waste, because Archer's Gambit essentially maxes out the reload anyways. However, the reload scalers do still stack. They both do increase the reload. So all you need to know is that if you have Impulse and Archer's Gambit, it's basically going to be the fastest version of a precision bow right now. Stacking Archer's Gambit with something like Archer's Timbo and Successful Warm-Up really doesn't make a huge difference, but those reload scalers do make a noticeable difference, and so using those two together will make it fast. But back to Snapshot. Thankfully I have my game volume turned down for you guys, because somebody's over there just making a million explosions, of course. Go over here where it's a little quiet. I was going to drop down here anyways because I wanted to show y'all how the bow looks. I personally don't mind the sights. I think they're quite nice. But you can see how fast I'm aiming. And Search Party's active down there at the bottom. It does stack with Snapshot. You can definitely notice the difference, because if I swap it off, Snapshot is very fast, but Search Party is just a teeny bit faster. And then, of course, you know, you get the increased movement speed while aiming. But if you don't really care much for that, if you think that the difference is small, by all means, just use Wildcard. And all in all, I think this is a very decent bow. I'm not personally going to be using it a ton. It doesn't really, you know, I'm kind of on a lightweight kick right now, so I've been enjoying my lightweight bows. But if you're into precision bows, or if you just want a bow that's really good with Archer's Gambit, this is a very, very good bow to use. And with Snapshot, it is super, super fast. It's going to feel super snappy as well, especially in a Crucible environment. And as you can see, I'm proccing Archer's Gambit down there, even though I'm using my controller right now. And it's super fast. But anyways, that's enough beating up ads in this little lost sector here. If you don't have a good Archer's Gambit bow, go farm it. Hang on to anything that you think is useful. You're able to get a few at a time like this. I even saw somebody that had like basically every perk you could possibly want in both of these columns here. And I actually got some decent options here myself. Don't sweat the draw speed too much unless you just get one that's like super duper high. But if you get at least a couple of draw speed enhancing things and you're able to get below 576, perfectly acceptable bow. Don't kill yourself trying to find like the perfect god roll. You know, unfortunately bows can be a little bit annoying because it feels like we have to have draw time here, compact here, elastic here. And yeah, that's what you want, but don't kill yourself over it. If you get a decent bow like I've got here, I say stop farming those silly events, and then you know, like I was talking about earlier, just collect some candy, periodically go see Eva, turn it in and see if you get some more decent rolls with it. But if you don't mind those Halloween events, by all means, grind away. Save all the good rolls that you got, because you never know. Something may change later down the road, and you might want this for whatever reason. Especially if Bungie, for you controller players, if Bungie fixes the hipfire for us, like they supposedly said that they're going to do, this bow is going to feel really, really good. And at that point, we won't care about Snapshot as much, but try to hang on to some good Archer's Gambit rolls, especially if you don't already have one. This bow is a heck of a lot more farmable than some other options out there. Technically, Hush is just basically free now. You can go buy as many copies as you want from the Drifter, but Hush has a massive perk pool. I still have, to this day, have never gotten a God rolled Hush, which is a pain in the butt. Thankfully, we don't have to farm Gambit anymore to get it, but even recently with me spamming a bunch of materials at him and trying to get Hush rolls, I still have never really gotten a great one. This is a good alternative to that, or for any other Archer's Gambit bow. I like it. I like the design. Don't care for the name too much, but that's okay. It's a neat bow overall, and I think you should go ahead and grab it while it's here. But anyways, folks, I hope you found this info helpful. I hope you don't mind me rambling too much. I had a lot to say about it. Overall, it's a neat bow. I know it's not like super exciting. You know, it would have been cool to maybe see some more interesting perks that made it do something different in PvE, but who knows? Maybe they're running out of ideas or whatever. But anyways, folks, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.